live. Okay, we are live. Now we are live. Let's see if this one works now. Let's see if we have streams. There we go. So we now have audio. Okay, sweet. Let's let that play out. So, yeah, welcome to the stream. The title, if you could not tell, is the Hero of New York commentary for the anniversary of Hero of New York. It was actually a couple days ago. It was the 25th. It is now the 28th. So I'm sorry that this is going to be kind of late. I apologize for this thing on my nose, but allergies have been ridiculous around this time. So, you know, apologize for that. That's also why I seem kind of tired. But, you know, we're going to try to power through that. I wanted to get this out on the 25th, but I was not up to it. My head was killing me. So hopefully we'll be able to get done with this one. So it's been exactly 5 years since we did Hero of New York. Well, since we released it, uploaded it to YouTube. And it's crazy to think that, as you think about that. I mean, it's been half a decade since we released that movie. And I know I haven't really done too much since then. I've done like this, you know, a couple slasher films and stuff, and I have a bunch of other projects that I'm working on. I am working on another Spider-Man project for the far future with Hank the Tank, so I think you guys are going to really enjoy that. I'll sort of talk about that a little bit later on in the stream. We got that Carnage shirt, rocking that because, you know, you got to rock something Spider-Man. And, you know, I had some other stuff, but this was the one that I ended up choosing. And if any of you guys are reading current Marvel Comics, not too long ago, last year there was this event called Absolute Carnage, which is like this big thing with all these tie-ins and stuff, so it seemed appropriate. So we're going to go ahead and get on the Hero of New York. Now, two things before we get into Hero of New York. The first thing is we actually have a channel. I know I have like a few other channels. I don't use a lot of them. The main three that I'm using are the main one, you know, Brandon B Productions, which you're watching this stream on. My behind the scenes channel, which, you know, I've kind of done some stuff on there, and I'm going to be doing a whole lot more, especially during this coronavirus quarantine. So definitely go ahead and check that out if you want to see re-releases and commentaries and bloopers, behind the scenes, videos of me breaking down Easter eggs and just all that, you know, nerdy stuff. If you're like me and you like buying DVDs and physical media, and you like watching the bonus features, the special features, stuff like that, then, you know, this is definitely a channel you're going to subscribe to. If that's not your thing, I can understand why you might not want to check out that channel. But also, if you like things like the noir re-releases, or you want to see like VHS re-releases, commentaries, whatever, maybe you might want to check the channel out. But, you know, that's up to you. The other channel we have is, I'm going to actually show you right here on stream. It's called Project H.O.N.Y, which stands for Project Hero of New York. We last worked on it 2 years ago. As you can see, it only has like 20 subscribers, but this is basically going to be a channel dedicated to this film, Hero of New York, and because there's so much that I have on this film and just so much that I can talk about that I think you guys are just really, really going to like. So there's 3 videos on here right now. The 2 original trailers that we released, the official trailer and the final trailer, as well as the initial announcement video that I did right here, and you can see just how drastically different I look then versus now. I still have that shirt, actually, that pajama shirt that I'm wearing. I still actually have it. It's a lot tighter on me now, but I still do wear it to sleep sometimes just because it's so cool, and it's got some really cool iconic comic book characters in their comic book designs. And especially now that I've grown a lot more, like I've sort of grown away from where the current Marvel movies and video games and such are. I've definitely been connecting back with the older comic books and stuff, so, you know, I like going for the comic book versions of shirts and stuff. So with that out of the way, definitely check that channel out. I want to post a lot more on that soon. A lot of like bloopers for Hero of New York go on there, behind the scenes, vlogs, recovered videos from the Hero of New York era. We're going to upload Hero of New York on this film, the original, like, uncut version, and then I'm going to do kind of like a remaster, recut kind of thing where, you know, I'll kind of add some new music, I'll change some of the music, I'll, you know, do a new title sequence, you know, try and just trim it up a little bit, add some stuff, change some stuff, just kind of give a little improved version of it. And I'll upload the Joker versus Green Goblin video that I did, and that'll go on here. I'll do a whole video talking about deleted scenes, and I'll like explain them, and maybe do some like basic animation just to kind of give you a gist of like what could have been. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'm going to show you guys how you can actually watch Hero of New York. So if you go to my channel, this is kind of what you'll see. You'll see the slasher series right there, which is Voorhees, Myers, Ghostface Unslashed, because the original one has a copyright claim on it now, which just recently got the copyright claim, YouTube. And a Strangers fan film made by a friend of mine, Victor Ferrer. And these are projects that I've worked on. There's their current stream right there. Coping with Anger, Hulk fan film tribute, and the Death in the Family fan film that Bryce Journey did. I did color grading on these. I stunt doubled as Batman in the Death in the Family one. I did these thumbnails, and Bryce just kind of adjusted them to how he wanted them. And then over here is Wanted, a short film by a friend of mine, Isaiah Gomez. We used to do a lot of collaborations back in the day when we used to do like stop motion videos. So I played a character in that film, as well as Mental Motion Pictures, Symbiote Saga series, and their Ultimate Spider-Man fan film. I played Eddie Brock / Venom in all of them. I also did some slight VFX for this fan film right here, or not fan film, short film right here, Remedy, tired guys. And then over here I edited this 2019 commercial reel. So these are just projects that I've worked on, and you guys can check those out. But if you guys want to see Hero of New York, you simply just go to playlists. And of course I have all kinds of playlists here, but the main one that you're going to want to go to is the, where even is it? You're going to want to just go to, I think it's the playlist. You're going to want to go to the, it's like the Hero of New York Universe playlist. It's on there somewhere. And Hero of New York is right there. So let's go ahead and check out the stream and see if anyone's joined. It says we have 3 people watching now. So I'm going to hit full screen on that. I'm just going to pull up the stream on my phone to make sure everything is shipshape before we go ahead and get the movie started. Hero of New York is right there. Got my water here. I'm going to have the stream pulled up, so I'm going to be able to answer questions. Oh, first question. Larry Kress. Hey, man, what's going on? Brandon, help me remember something. Did you make a fan film called Hulk v. Wolverine where Hulk, Wolverine, Spider-Man fought the Punisher while Danger Zone played in the background? Yes, that was me. So basically after Hero of New York, because here's the thing. I initially was going to try and create this like fan film cinematic universe. I really wanted to do like the whole MCU thing, but I wanted to be able to like cross all the different characters that the rights at the time did not allow Marvel to use. So I was like, all right, we're gonna do Spider-Man, Wolverine, Hulk, Punisher. We're gonna take all these characters that are owned by different studios, and I'm gonna be able to use them under one roof, and I'm gonna really make it comic book based, and it's gonna be kind of cheesy, but it'll pretty much be kind of comic booky. And I remember initially I wanted to do this Hulk versus Wolverine fan film. It was going to be like my big project, but I was like, you know what? I really want to do Spider-Man. I really want Spider-Man to be in that film. And when I decided that, I was like, I really should do some sort of origin story, because I just love the origin story of Spider-Man so much. And I was like, I really should do that kind of origin story and, tell that story before we lead into this. So that's why I did Hero of New York. And it was originally going to be a really, really short film. It was going to introduce Peter, it was going to introduce Gwen Stacy, it was going to introduce the Green Goblin, introduce Harry Osborn, Aunt May, Uncle Ben, and it was actually going to end where Green Goblin runs away saying, "We'll meet again, Spider-Man," and it was going to kind of be left open-ended, so it's like, okay, Green Goblin could return in the future, and he would have been like, a villain, some other stuff, but as I was thinking about it, I was like, I'd really like to tell the death of Gwen Stacy storyline. I really want to do that, and the death of Green Goblin, just because it's very iconic for a comic book fan. So I was like, I really should do that before I get into it, and that's the film just sort of expanded from there. And there's a lot of things that were changed, and I'll kind of be pausing the movie here and there to tell you guys of stuff like that. But when I did Hulk v Wolverine, the version that you guys saw really was not the version that I wanted to do. I remember writing that film, and I fell in love with the script that I had written. I wrote it with Earthcore Studios. He and I had kind of written some stuff for it, and I was just in love with it. I had this cast that I was super pumped for it, but the Spider-Man film just took so much, and we finally, literally the week that we released Hero of New York, we were already shooting Hulk versus Wolverine, because I was like, it's time to get into it. But I guess because it had been so long, the cast started to sort of lose some hope in it, and everybody wasn't as motivated. I wasn't as motivated, and then trying to get everybody together to finish it was a nightmare, and we had to cut so much out of it, and there's stuff in the film that out of context now just makes no sense, and ultimately I really wish it would have been better, and that's why I deleted it. I actually had reshot it another point with a totally different cast, and I still have all the footage for that. Maybe I'll release that on the Project Hero of New York channel, just so that channel has something else to put on there, because that was a really interesting film that we had done there, and maybe with all the effects in and stuff, it could be passable. But I ended up deleting Hulk v Wolverine because I didn't like the way that it turned out, and if you guys kind of saw the initial vision that I had, you guys probably would have liked it a bit more, but what are you gonna do? So I guess without further ado, we got 3 people watching. Say that's good. Let's get into it. And feel free to ask questions, to leave comments on your favorite parts and what you thought about certain scenes, things you liked, things you disliked. You can respond to what I'm saying, and yeah, let's get right into it. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'll lower it just a little bit more. So obviously, as you guys can tell, the soundtrack is from the first Spider-Man movie. The movie is, for the most part, just ripped right from the original Raimi Spider-Man movie, but it's the Spider-Man movie that I love the most. It's probably not even probably, it's the movie I love the most. It has to be my favorite film of all time. I still own the VHS tapes that I used to watch as a child when I used to watch this movie, and I remember burning through the tapes. And if you guys are old enough to remember VHS tapes, you guys remember you'd have to. This was before DVDs were as big as they were. When because I was like 1 or 2 when this movie came out. So when the whole DVD thing started to catch on, it was just starting, associated with Earthcore Studios, because he helped fix up the script for this movie. There's a lot of things that I thought just needed to be fixed up, and he definitely helped coming in saying hey, we'll fix this up a little bit. Hey, maybe we could change this here. We'll throw a little bit of originality here, stuff like that. He helped a lot with editing and oh, do this and this and this. He helped a little bit with advising me on costume design and stuff, and I did the same for his Spectacular Spider-Man film. We kind of both disavow these movies though, so that's kind of funny. Also, there is a credit in here, right here. James Krawczak. He was originally going to play Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin, but once again, scheduling conflicts kind of messed with that, so he wasn't able to shoot with us on the days we were shooting. But he's basically he's a friend of the family's, friend of my dad's, and he used to I guess in layman's terms babysit me when I was a kid, and we would watch the 90s Spider-Man show every single day. We would watch the entire thing. We watched all of the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the 90s X-Men series. We used to just watch them one after the other, and I used to he and I used to also watch the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies together, and I saw him recently the other day, and we were still reminiscing about it, and we were like, oh yeah man, new Spider-Man's not as good as the old ones, and even Andrew Garfield wasn't too bad, but this old one was better and stuff, and going back and forth. So that was a fun trip down memory lane. But even though he wasn't in the film, because I know he liked the Green Goblin, he wanted to play the Green Goblin. Even though he didn't, I was like, I gotta leave his name in the credits of the movie, just because it's kind of like that honorable mention thing. These are obviously just stock images I got off of Google, and I did the yellow directed by Brandon Bubenheimer as a reference to my favorite director of all time, Quentin Tarantino. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Okay, we do not own the rights to any of the characters. All rights go to their respected owners. We are not affiliated with Sony or Marvel. This film is dedicated to those of the fans who read the comic books. Please enjoy, Burnaby. Because a lot of people, like when I was making this movie, would object to certain things, and it'd usually be because they only have knowledge of the movies. And I would say, well, no, in the comics, well, this is from the comics. Things like the Green Goblin, Gwen Stacy thing, they're like, nah, man, it's Harry Osborn who's got to throw her off the thing and kill her. And I'm like, no, not in the comics. Especially towards the end when Nick Fury shows up, people were like, yo, Nick Fury's black, dude. Why do you got this white boy playing Nick Fury? And I'm like, well, in the original comics, Nick Fury was white, and then when they did the Ultimate Comics, they envisioned Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, and that he was later retconned as the original Nick Fury's son, which is kind of funny. And he, it's funny because Sam Jackson read Marvel Comics, and he read that, and he was like, hey, I didn't authorize my likeness for Nick Fury. And they're like, hey, well, we're shooting Iron Man soon, so you want to just play Nick Fury? And he was like, yeah. Also, if you guys haven't seen that deleted post-credit scene where Sam Jackson talks about Spider-Man, he talks about the X-Men in that initial Iron Man post-credit scene, it's so good. I would play it right here, but I don't want to get copyrighted. I don't want Marvel Studios or Disney suing me. I'm already not on great terms with them, so let's not cause any more issues with them. But look it up, quick Google search, and you'll be able to find it. It's really cool. Basically, it's verbatim the scene from the original movie, but when Nick Fury turns around, he says, like, you think you're the only superhero in the world, in a world where there's radioactive bug bites and mutants, I got to deal with an egomaniac who doesn't play well with others. It's really cool. So it kind of implied that the Fox X-Men and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man were going to be in the MCU, which... All right, let's get this movie started. Come on, let's go.
Things don't look too good. Looks like the company is downsizing, and I may lose my job.
Once again, word for word, if you're wondering why I'm looking down, I'm looking at the chat. Again, word for word, the Raimi movies. But there's a can of Pringles in the back right there, and I remember when I was editing this, like as I was editing this scene, I was like, wait a minute, there's a can of Pringles in the kitchen? And I immediately ran into the kitchen and grabbed those Pringles, and I still, to this day, am obsessed with those cheese Pringles. So... That's a little fun fact. So casting my grandparents as Aunt May and Uncle Ben to me was a no-brainer because there was a time in my life where, hey, look, who's that guy? There was a time in my life where I actually did have to stay with my grandparents, and I lived with them for a couple of years, and they pretty much were like my Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And it's one of the reasons why I related to the character of Peter Parker so much was, we kind of live in the climate now where it's like the only way you can relate to a character is if they share some sort of superficial trait. Like, I can only relate to this character because he shares my skin color, my sexual orientation, or my gender, or something like that, which is something that I never really subscribe to. I always subscribe to, relate to a character that you feel is relatable to you and what you go through and your personality, and characters you can empathize with. And to me, Peter Parker was always that because, like Peter Parker, I was a nerd growing up. I still am a huge nerd. I got bullied a lot. I was never really, about following the crowd. I was always kind of like to myself and on my own. And so, Peter Parker was a lot like that. I was very anxious as a kid. Still do kind of suffer from anxiety, but, especially back in the day, I was just an anxious mess, and Peter Parker was as well. And he was able to sort of turn his problems into a way to, help other people, and that was just super inspiring to me. And even though, you know, he would be suffering, he would always kind of rather himself suffer than you know, letting other people suffer. And that was always something that I just found so you know, admirable about the character, and that's why I love the character, and that's why I still love the character. But let's get back into it. Yeah, they were more than happy to do this.
I'm gonna go lay down.
So this was back when I used to live at my grandmother's. This was where I stayed, was in the basement. My short hair. I always hated that hairstyle, by the way. I hated having my hair like that. And it was like right after this movie that I started growing my hair, which, as you can see, I haven't really stopped. Because during this, I never really cared much about looks. I just dropped a box of pencils. I never really cared much about how I look. I still, to an extent, don't. But, you know, so growing up, my parents were sort of like, all right, we're going to, you know, pick out your clothes and your hairstyle and stuff. And then as I got older, you know, right after this movie or towards the end of this movie, I was like, I don't like this hairstyle, this haircut. I don't want to keep getting it. I want to let it grow a little longer. My parents really weren't about that at first. They were like, you know, let's leave it short. And I was like, no, let's let it grow a little bit. And that's why you notice, like, especially in this shot right here, it's like slightly longer. And then as the movie goes on, it goes from like short to long to short to long. The continuity in this movie is just atrocious. But the hairstyle, this is part of the reason why I ended up growing my hair out. And then as it just progressed, I was like, oh, let me grow a little longer. And now I'm just like, I'm not cutting it. So that's kind of funny. So I shot this. We originally had, you can see it's raining, and you know, it's raining, and at first I was like, it kind of screws up the shot, but I was like, wait a minute, it's supposed to be a dream. So the fact that it makes it look super like overexposed, and, you know, there's like splotches everywhere, it makes it look more like a dream sequence, you know. So I kind of liked how it worked out in the end. But yeah, originally we were going to shoot the whole like Peter is out at the field trip, he goes to Oscorp, he takes pictures. We had like, I remember like we bought a whole bunch of fish tanks, and we even had like people who were getting rid of their fish tanks donate them to us. So we, for a while, I remember in my basement I had like 10 fish tanks just stacked on top of each other with plants in them, with like twigs in them, with wallpapers on them. And I had like these toy spiders, like, you know, those like rings. I actually still have one. I'll pull that out. Somewhere over here. Yeah. So there's two of the spiders there, actually. One is like red, and he has the white eyes to look like Spider-Man, and the other one is just kind of has white spots on him. And I just kept those because those are ones that I liked, and then that one up there is supposed to be like red and blue, like the one from the movie. But yeah, we had that already. We were gonna get a location for it eventually, you know, planning and everything. And this was my first film. You know, this movie has a lot of problems.
Hey, Peter Pan!
You're streaming right now.
You're streaming?
Yeah.
What up, Peter Pan?
Streaming.
What are you streaming?
Your movie, Hero of New York.
Jeez. You're mad little in there. You actually have short hair.
Yeah, right?
You didn't look like Jesus then.
No, not at all.
You look like a young Peter Parker.
Yeah, right?
Not bad.
No.
Alright. Peace out.
That was Nick Fury, actually, which is kind of funny. So that was an interesting guest spot, I guess, cameo. Yeah, we had the whole location ready to go and all, but then planning just kept getting so convoluted and messed up. And, you know, like I said, this was my first film. There's a lot of problems in this movie, but this was literally my first time picking up a camera and shooting something. So, you know, you kind of weigh it out. But yeah, we were gonna shoot the whole Oscorp thing, and then ultimately it just didn't pan out. So I was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do to sort of substitute that? And I was like, I got it. We'll just have Peter walking home from school and have this escaped Oscorp spider bite him somewhere. It's super plot convenient, but again, yeah, I had to work around something. Peter here, this was an idea. It's, again, sort of based off of the first Spider-Man movie, but I tried to do it differently. Where it's supposed to be like Gwen's walking, and he's like, hey, Gwen, oh, okay, bye, because she just doesn't even acknowledge him, because he's, like, real soft-spoken. Which, again, is another thing that I sort of related with Peter Parker, too, is because I had that issue, you know, being kind of nervous and saying, like, hi. Not necessarily, like, in this situation where he's like trying to get the attention of a girl, but for me, just, you know, I didn't have the confidence really to talk, so I would feel like, hi, yeah, you know. But you know, nowadays, like, if I warm up to somebody talking to them, blah 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 blah, as I am right now.
Hey, Glenn.
Yeah, because I realize we're only 2 minutes into this movie and I keep pausing it. This, I hate that I just took the scene from the movie instead of trying to do something on my own. Like, to me, it's just such a big cop-out. What's funny is I wore these glasses so much shooting this movie that I later on had to wear glasses, and I still have to wear glasses to this day because of that. So, things work out that way. Sacrifice my eyes for the movie. So the basement that I shot that in was in, well, a basement, and we tried making it seem like his room was upstairs, so we tried shooting it in certain ways. You kind of can be immersed in it to some extent, but in other cases it's obvious that I'm in a basement and I'm trying to make it look like it's upstairs when it's downstairs. There's even one point where I play the chameleon and I say something like, I forgot something down upstairs. It's so blurry, oh my gosh.
Hey, Michelangelo, don't
He was looking at the
forget,
camera.
in the kitchen after school.
In the cut version, the new edited version, this scene would probably be cut out because it has nothing to do with this movie. It never comes back into play in this movie at all. It goes nowhere. There was no reason for it to be in there other than the fact that it's a reference to the Raimi movie. Because there's no painting the kitchen after school.
Stop kidding, Parker.
Come on, Flash.
So this was actually the middle school that I attended at the time, and because it was like it was a private school, and the principal of it was a friend of the family. We had asked the principal, like, hey, we're trying to shoot, you know, a movie, and she knew that I was, like, really into superheroes and comic books and stuff, and I was like, you know, I want to do, like, the origin of Spider-Man. You know, he gets bullied in school. I was like, I really could use a school scene for this, and, you know, all the people that would be shooting in the scene are, you know, students that go here, so, you know, is it okay if we shoot here? And she was like, well, you know, this Saturday I have to do some work, so, you know, I have to come into the school on Saturday to do some work anyway, so if you can make it quick while I'm up in the office doing work, you can shoot in front of the lockers. And I was like, yes. I got these guys together, and there's a vlog with these guys where we're all, like, hanging out and stuff, so it was really fun. But this guy right here, Viren, pretty cool. He and I were we were sort of frenemies back in the day because we would, like, annoy each other nonstop, and there were times where, you know, where other students would ask us, like, do you guys hate each other or are you guys friends? Because one minute you guys are hanging out, going to each other's houses and playing video games and posting stuff on Instagram, and the next minute you guys are, like, ready to break out into a fist fight in the cafeteria. Like, what's going on? So yeah, that's just kind of the friendship that we had. So I was like, you know, since he and I already, like, joke around with each other and we're already used to, like, mess with each other, I was like, and he's, you know, bigger than me, he's taller than me, I was like, he should play Flash Thompson. So that was the idea. I was like, let's get Flash Thompson in here. And this guy back here, Jacob, he's playing Steve Hopkins, who, if you guys don't know, is Peter Parker's college roommate. You know, I wanted to include all these, like, comic book references in there, and I was like, you know what if we had Peter Parker have a friend who can help him out when he's getting bullied and kind of help him stand up to the bullies and such. So that's why this scene was included.
What's up? Hey, why don't you mess with some of your own side?
And those two also had he had a very similar relationship with him that he had with me. One minute they were fighting, the next minute they were hanging out. So they enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, me. What's up? Put your hands up.
You could also say that him helping Peter in the fight is kind of a inspiration for Peter to start helping other people, you know? So it's like he sees that even when he was in this weaker state, somebody helped him, so he goes and helps other people.
I mean, it's not like I could do anything about it.
Also, so a lot of people ask the question of why does Peter still wear the glasses even after the spider bite? To me, it's always just, you know, so obvious that after Peter Parker stops, you know, wearing the glasses and dressing like a nerd, and all of a sudden he's ripped and he's confident, and he's doing all this, and he's showing his powers at school. Then all of a sudden the Spider-Man guy shows up. Like, to me, it was just always way too obvious that, okay, this kid's clearly Spider-Man, you know. So I try to hide that in a way by giving him sort of like a Clark Kent kind of thing, where it's like, okay, well, he's just gonna wear the glasses even when he's still a nerd. He's still gonna act like a nerd when he's Peter Parker, but when he's Spider-Man, he's gonna be more wisecracking. I tried to give it the best of both worlds from the like whatchamacallit, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield sort of debate. David Sherwin asks, still working on your soft reboot? I guess soft reboot's the best way to put it. Yeah, I'll talk about it more probably towards the end of the stream, so anyone who's still here, anybody who joins, will definitely, you know, learn more about that.
What? Me and Flash Thompson in a room together alone? I don't think that's gonna work.
That sounds sexual.
Yeah.
Flash Thompson and I in a room together alone? Sounds like Peter sounds like he's scared that Flash Thompson's gonna like rape him or something, even though he's got spider powers at this point. It's so blurry. For one, the focus on this was bad because, like I said, first time picking up a camera, and I used a camera that was way too advanced. And instead of, you know, taking some time to learn the camera, I was like, let's just go and shoot. Let's just go and shoot. So the focus is bad, but the footage was never this bad. How bad that you see it on YouTube, it was never this bad. We shot the movie in 4K, believe it or not. We shot the movie in 4K, but I had the deadline out. I had told people this is when the movie's coming out, and people were messaging me like, when's the movie coming out? When's the movie coming out? So, like an idiot, I decided, well, we could probably downgrade the quality a little bit just so that we can have the movie exported faster. And I deleted all the footage before I could get a chance to export it in full quality, and it's still something that I, you know, hate to this day, but you know, this movie was a learning curve. That's the biggest thing about this movie, was just a huge learning curve for me. So once again, we have Miles Morales in here, just again to show, you know, I wanted to show that I was this big comic book fan, and I wanted to throw in all these little Easter eggs to the comics and all these nods and references so that other people who read the comics could look at it and go, I see what you did there.
Hey, what's up, Miles?
And in fact, me, Miles, the actor who plays Miles Morales, Billy, and Viren, who played Flash Thompson, were all big comic book guys, and in school we would often read comics and trade comics, and like, oh, did you just read this issue of Spider-Man? Well, I just read this issue of Thunderbolts. Oh, let's trade off and let's read. Which is really cool. We had a teacher who was also a huge comic book guy, so he would sometimes like come to school with like old issues from his collection and say like, here, you have these. So that was really cool. Shout out to him.
Hey, you know Miles Morales? No.
Dr. Connor's reference there too.
He's a new kid in class. I think you guys have good common interests.
Yeah, good common interest because they both get bit by spiders. They both become Spider-Man. Gwen. So she actually is dating my brother now.
Yeah, you guessed it.
That's kind of fun.
Really? Midtown?
My brother, who you saw in Ghostface, he was the guy who pulls up to the house. He's now dating Gwen here, which is kind of funny. I saw her actually on the 25th when it was the actual anniversary for the movie, and I was like, hey, today marks 5 years since we made the movie. And she was like, yeah, that's right when I was graduating high school. So it was a fun little memory lane. And here, as you can see, my hair is longer. I was starting to let it grow, and people didn't like it. People were like, just go back to the shorter hair, man. Just go back to the shorter hair. And I was like, nah. And as you can see, I still haven't taken that advice. You can clearly see that this library is closed. There's caution signs, danger signs. I don't know why I didn't try to frame it from another angle, but again, first time picking up a camera, first time making a movie. She's clearly wearing a wig, and she's wearing a purple like headband as a reference to the purple skirt that she later wears.
Okay, cool.
Probably the worst of the scenes with Gwen, just because we were both kind of awkward. But you'll see like this closed continuity, because I said the continuity on this is really bad. You know, he wears this at first, and then, you know, so he's wearing sort of like a black shirt, black pants. Here he's wearing a sort of dark gray shirt, light gray pants. Here he's wearing a dark gray shirt, dark gray pants. The hair changes, so it's the continuity in this movie. Right now he's wearing black pants, his hair is short again. So the Joel, who played Harry Osborn and the Chameleon in this movie, which Harry Osborn is not the Chameleon in this movie, he just happens to play both of those roles. He was like, well, you can always just say that this takes place over, you know, a longer period of time, and we're just sort of jumping from different points in the story. So there's days that nothing occurs that are just skipped over. And so in between that time, his hair grows, his hair gets cut, it's, you know, he's wearing different outfits and he just wears the same jacket. And I was like, that's a pretty good idea, actually. So that's kind of what I used to justify it. This was filmed by my boy Nigel, who he was he filmed this scene. He plays Cletus Cassidy later on. So for this, I'm actually just standing on my dad's shoulders, and he just kind of like stands up. I remember when he stood up the first time, he like farted, and we were just cracking up. But yeah, I'm just standing on his shoulder and climbing up this this bridge here, which this is an actual bridge here. And originally, we were gonna shoot the Death of Gwen Stacy scene on here, but we didn't want to alert cops. You know, we didn't want to make it a big legal thing because, you know, I don't have permits or anything to film this. So I was like, well, we have to, you know, play it safe for that. I obviously just jumped off that cone right there. I don't know, it's probably not even a cone, but again, different outfit. And as you can see, I kind of like did this thing right here with my hand to kind of give him a cue, like as like we're filming. Yeah, I go. Whoosh. So we rehearsed this scene probably like 10 times. Not like on this day, but just we knew what we wanted to say, so we would occasionally just have these conversations, me and him, in character, and we would just sort of add different things. He had watched Peter's Web. And was like, you know what, I want to add that whole, like, my dad wants to adopt you and put me up on eBay. And I was like, all right, you know, let's have a conversation that actually sounds like Peter and Harry could be having a conversation. I said, but I want to include a whole bunch of, like, you know, references to comics and stuff in there. I was like, so I'm going to talk about Liz Allen. I'm going to talk about how Gwen Stacy's dad actually dies in the comics, which is like Doc Ock pushes the chimney on top of him. You know, I wanted to talk about, like, comic book things while still making it feel like a genuine conversation. And I think we did a fairly decent job at that. So he and I would just have these conversations in character, like, all the time, which was pretty fun to do. We sort of ironed out this conversation. There's a deleted scene that I probably don't even have it anymore. I might be able to find it, but there's a deleted scene in which Harry goes to Peter's house, and it's shot very horribly. It's like it was shot on like the webcam of an old MacBook, and we were just talking, and I sort of tell him about the spider bite, and I tell him about the powers that I got, and, you know, it was sort of an interesting approach. It was, you know, an original thing, but it didn't really work out, and ultimately I was like, it sort of affects the story too much if he knows that Peter is Spider-Man, so we cut it out.
You know, put me up on eBay or something. You know your father loves you. I sometimes doubt that.
So what's going on with you?
Nothing. I scored a date with Liz Allen.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah,
Six Eye Studios later kind of took this whole idea of, like, Peter Parker's talking to Harry Osborn, and he starts acting gangster or hood or whatever, and Harry kind of shuts him down. But we did it first. Also, we had an Indian Flash Thompson before the movies did. And also, we had Nick Fury recruiting Peter Parker before the movies did. And they shot theirs on green screen. We actually shot ours on a roof, so take that, John Watts and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Don't sue me. Don't sue me.
Worth a shot. Yeah. So
yeah. What about that Gwen chick? Gwen
Stacy. I remember it was her father last year, Captain George Stacy. He died. Chimney fell on top of him.
Yeah.
Comic book reference.
Hell of a way to die.
Hell of a way to die.
So,
My voice, oh my god.
What's been going on with Oscar? Anything new?
That radioactive spider?
Oh yeah, the red and blue one.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Got loose.
Really?
Yeah.
So he forgot to say the whole, like, look at my hand and say, oh, what happened to your hand? Did you get bit by something? Because he was adding this line here about, like, if you come across it, stay away from it. So I'm, like, making it so obvious, like, look at the hand, dude. You got to acknowledge the hand.
You come across it, just,
stay away from it.
Stay away from it.
Okay.
Yeah. What happened to your hand?
Mosquito bite.
Mosquito bite.
Whatever, fine.
Alright, fine. I got it.
I literally leave the same direction as him, though, which is kind of weird. Because he's saying he has to go, and I'm like, alright, I'm just going to follow you. Instead of, like, going the other way. Little thing.
What's going on
so I had photoshopped this, like,
really
crappily slapped it together. There's the old Brandon B. Productions logo, where it says theater professor named Sheedy Award recipient. So, I don't know, I guess in this alternate universe, Brandon B. Productions collapses and I become a theater professor. The Crusher Hogan challenge, there's like some sort of luchador looking guys there. The Cletus Cassidy wins the trial. Cletus Cassidy shows up in this. There's Nigel, who looks very different now. He also has long hair and stuff. We shot that. That is actually a screenshot from a canceled spin-off movie that I was going to do, that I actually sort of did, but I never finished it. It's like a chameleon thing. And then there's the Tony Stark done. The Photoshop in this is atrocious, and there's the Deadpool wanted reward poster, even though it doesn't make sense for it to be that old, like, Western thing on a newspaper. But that actually does show up in the Hulk vs. Wolverine movie, so there's sort of that link there. And yeah, Iron Man is referenced a lot in this movie. That's another thing we did before the movies did, but also at least my Peter Parker has independence and isn't looking for approval from his senpai Tony Stark every 5 minutes.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Damn, I'm just firing shots all over the MCU tonight.
Merc with the mouth wanted, whoever that guy is. No, this is interesting. Crusher Hogan challenge. $3,000 for 3 minutes in the ring. Colorful costumes required.
And actually, in the comics, it's just like $100 if you can defeat the Crusher Hogan or something like that. And he doesn't get ripped off in the movie, or in the comics. He doesn't get ripped off. He only gets ripped off in the movie. There's a Mickey Mouse in the back. I kind of hover my mouse over it right here. There's a Mickey Mouse as a reference to the fact that Disney had acquired Marvel. So like Mickey is sort of like watching him. Oh! Don't let this movie get too dark, or we can't sell it to kids. The music from the Raimi movie. Strategic gym shirt. Even though, like, it's not realistic for Peter Parker to be wearing a gym shirt, but maybe once he developed his powers, he started. Another Miles Morales reference. And this is before Miles was, like, in the mainstream. This is before Miles was literally in every single Spider-Man thing ever. Because now, like, you can't have an existing Spider-Man without a Miles or Spider-Gwen showing up. Ultimate Alliance 3 has them show up. The new TV shows, the Ultimate Spider-Man and the Marvel Spider-Man, has Spider-Gwen and Miles as Spider-Man. They're trying to introduce both of those characters into the MCU. At this point, even Spider-Man PS4 brings Miles in as Spider-Man, and they're probably going to bring Spider-Gwen in for the sequel. So, yeah. Even though those are two characters that I used to actually really like, I don't really like how they're being shoehorned into everything, because they don't really add anything to Peter's character. I think they're better sort of on their own or in certain stories, but, give Spider-Man his independence back. Like, that's something that I always remember as a kid, Spider-Man being independent and sort of being able to do his own thing with occasional help, like in Web of Shadows or something. Now it's like everything Peter needs some sort of team to be following him around. He needs to be a part of some sort of team. And I always hate the argument of, like, no, Spider-Man needs to stay in the MCU because he needs the greater Marvel Universe. And I'm like, no, he doesn't need the greater Marvel Universe. It helps, but, he's fine on his own. And that's why I think, he might be better off with Sony. Unpopular opinion, but I think he might be better off with Sony. At least Spider-Man PS4 and Into the Spider-Verse kind of showed me that. Ben Reilly suit that Spider-Girl later adopted in the comics. TASM 1 suit. And the reason why he actually, like, briefly ponders the TASM 1 suit is because there was actually a draft of this movie where he did have the TASM 1 suit. Raimi suit. Now, yeah, obviously it goes without saying that I didn't draw any of these. They're all just printed out from Google Images. The suit up scene. Those glasses, those are just a pair of 3D glasses that I got from a cinema that I used a silver Sharpie and then a red and blue Sharpie to sort of detail. I drew the webs over the eyes. What's a spider without his web?
What's a spider without his web?
Iron Man 1 music. The idea for the costume was basically a mix of the one you see him wear in the comics. Was it the Ultimate Comics where he wears something similar to that? I mean, it does look like the one that he has in the PS4 video game now. But it was a mix of that and the Human Spider. Because I really like the design of the Human Spider. I was kind of going to do the one from the comics where it's just like the white shirt, the jeans, and he wears like almost like a stocking mask to look like webs. But I was like, people really aren't going to identify that because it's clearly from the from the comics, not from the movies. So these awards they actually belong to my dad, and he had them up there, but you don't see any names on them, so they could always just be, here's Peter's Science Awards that he won, so I guess that's sort of a way to excuse that. And then the two baseball ones there, because my dad sponsors a baseball team every year. I don't know, I guess those could be Peter played baseball, or maybe maybe there's some kind of science award as well. So this is shot in a kitchen. This is bad. I don't like this scene. This tube right here is literally, because we bought a bunch of these test tubes, these are all just like filled with various things to give it the color. These two in particular were just water and like hairspray, like the stuff that you'd spray on your hair to make it a certain color and then you could wash it out. That's basically what it is. The green one looked the best because it was like, chemicals, like you could see the chemicals floating in it. The blue one looks fine. This one we used Elmer's glue and water, and I figured like, oh, you use that for projects and stuff, so it shouldn't be too bad. Smelled awful. I remember like opening it and just, it was like the worst thing I smelled. I was like, just threw it out. And this orange one, I don't know, I think that's dish soap. And this I think is lemonade.
It's time for the test.
Oz formula. Yeah. Doesn't even like inject it. He could have drank it or something. So this is like Goblin vision. That's why it's all green. And this is supposed to be Norman Osborn, not Harry Osborn. But as I said, we kind of cheaped out on that.
Uncle Ben, I'm going to go to the library.
I'll give you a ride.
No, I'll take a train.
I had just gotten a haircut this day.
Okay. Thanks for the ride, Uncle Ben.
Peter, we need to talk.
Not now.
He's wearing shorts.
Yes, Peter, now. You are changing. Something is going on.
We don't know you
We
anymore.
don't even know you anymore. Your father had a philosophy that he thought very strongly of. That served him.
So this is the speech from the Ultimate Comics,
He
if you
believed
guys didn't know.
You had things too often.
I know a lot of people were like, oh, so it's the
Things
Amazing
that you
Spider-Man
did
one,
very
right? And I'm
well.
like, no, it's the
Better
Ultimate
than
Comics.
anyone
They based
else.
theirs off the Ultimate Comics. This is my brother's car that he does not have. The brother that
That made
you saw
people
come in earlier.
help
He does not own this car anymore.
He didn't think
You actually
it
see
was
this car a
good
little bit
idea
later
to
on in the
do
movie
those
too.
things.
Green Goblin blows it
He
up.
thought it was your responsibility.
So just fun
You
facts
see,
everywhere.
Peter, with
Great
great
power
power comes great responsibility. Because, Peter, great responsibility.
Are you afraid I'm gonna change into some kind of criminal? Quit worrying about me.
This
I'll
is probably
figure
my
out
worst
how to
acted
find
scene in the
myself
movie.
to
I'm just
stop
like, oh, you
it.
think I'm become a criminal? Just stop worrying about it. Like I'm
I don't mean
going
to
way
lecture,
too fast.
Peter. I don't mean to preach.
I'm not your father. Well, then stop pretending to
Well,
be.
then stop pretending to be.
Right.
Right.
I'll pick you up at
Pick
10,
you up
Peter.
at 10, Peter.
You can withstand 3 minutes.
These guys were so into it, as you guys can tell. This was fun to shoot.
$3,000 will be awarded to...
What's your name, kid? The Human Spider. Those gloves were fairly close to what he wears in the movie, and I was like really happy to find those. Also, this guy right here in the green shirt is the one who later kills Uncle Ben, so we thought it was fitting that he would be there. We were originally going to have more people in the seats, but, it got to the point where we were spending way too much time. Because the two scenes that delayed this movie for so long, otherwise it would have been out like way sooner, was this scene and the death of Gwen Stacy scene. Those were the two scenes that like delayed this movie for the 2 years. And I was like, we're wasting too much time. We just got to get this done.
Someone get me out of here.
Hey, Freak Show, you ain't going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Bonesaw. And also, we do reference Crusher Hogan, but I also did like Bonesaw. So I was like, let's call him Bonesaw the Crusher Hogan. You know, a bit repetitive, but... How does he just get up? Look at that. Boxing gloves off to the side. Daredevil Easter egg? Unintentional Daredevil Easter egg? Moon Knight? No, I'm kidding. I mean, they could be. It could be. What? So we were trying to decide. I was like, okay, so how do we take out Bonesaw? That was like the one thing that we didn't know how to do. Originally, I was gonna have Peter just like in a moment of anger and adrenaline just punch Bonesaw in the face and knock him clean out. But I was like, I don't know. That was the idea that I had I had in mind. But on set, I was like, no, we got to do something else. And I had just watched a video of somebody doing the RKO, and I looked at my dad and I was like, what if we had him RKO Crusher Hogan? And he was like, he goes, weirdly enough, I was thinking something similar to that. So I was like, then it's meant to be. So this was fun. Like how I like jump off the ropes. And I literally also kind of like jump back into the ropes and like lunge forward. Kick. RKO. This RKO, I'm going to slow the footage down to show you guys. But this RKO killed me. Because that ring was a hard floor with a thin layer of craft foam. Any of you guys who use craft foam, I don't think I have any around here. But any of you guys who use craft foam to make lenses and cosplay stuff, it's thin. It's very, very thin. And it doesn't really protect a whole lot. And I hit my head and bite my tongue at the same time. Like I fall there, and then as you see, my head like whoosh, whiplashes back, and I hit my head and I bite my tongue, and I literally just sat there like, what am I doing with my life? Like, is it really worth it? Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Another one of these really bad Norman Osborn scenes that we tried to play off. That was just, that was just there to show like Norman kind of doesn't care about Harry. He doesn't really care about Harry's future. He kind of wants to be in control of it. The Goblin Mask.
They will regret this.
Because he lost that military contract. Again, it's trying to parody off the movie, but it just doesn't really work because he doesn't go and kill the people that canceled his contract. He just kills a gang. So this guy here, he's good friends with my dad, and I remember talking to him, and he was a really big comic book fan. He was really into this stuff, and we would just sit there and we would talk back and forth. I remember like when the X-Men movies came out, he and I would sit there and talk about them, like, hey, remember this from the X-Men movies? Remember this from the comic books? And I remember at one point when he found out that I was doing the whole, like, superhero fan films, he was like, I want a part. Like, I want in at some point. So we went ahead and gave him this role as sort of like the sleazy bank teller guy who, like, screws Peter out of his money.
I need this money to help out my aunt and uncle.
Because that's my problem.
This office is at my church.
Oh, okay.
Pistol whips
thanks,
him.
kid.
There's my mom. You could see her like in the back.
Stop! You could rip it apart. All you had to do was stick your foot out or something.
You got away with all my money.
With all the money.
Where's that my problem?
One thing that I would change if I could, I would go back if I can go back in time and fix this a little bit. I would have Peter push him for some reason. So this should have been better. You could see the shadow of it being filmed, and it's not shot very well. And I'm wearing a hat because my hair was too long and didn't match with continuity. But when we shot this, you see a car pass by, and I go, "Uncle Ben, someone call an ambulance," and the car actually stops and starts calling an ambulance. And I had to like really drastically make it look like a movie. So I get up and I go, cut, roll film, end take. All right, so next time we gotta get a dynamic shot of da 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 da. So then the car drives off. Probably was pissed.
Uncle Ben! Uncle Ben! Someone call an ambulance!
Yeah, you could tell I'm wearing a hat, and I actually miss, and the mask doesn't go on. It literally goes like in the back. I like that when he walks past, you see like the security light turn on. Spider-Man.
Oh, please,
He's not wearing his gloves or his glasses.
Did you give him a chance? Did you?
Thanks, kid. Whack. You can actually see me look through that spot there. The next day. Still upset, clearly. I guess not. Not upset enough to go get a haircut. Or to not get a haircut because he has shorter hair.
With great power comes great responsibility.
The song that's in every single fan film now.
You're so much better.
Those are like kind of homages to Ben Reilly's web shooters. They were just dowels that I covered in silver duct tape and put on those like sweatbands. So I actually glued that web shooter to those pants and had to throw those pants out because super glue is really bad. I've never really had a whole lot of luck using super glue. I like using hot glue, but that's just me. Super glue, nah. It glued it to those pants. The fumes were horrible. My fingers were all stuck together.
My name is Cletus Cassidy.
Cassidy.
And I believe that Spider-Man
is ruining our city.
And that we need to take it back.
So, basically that was supposed to be, if you guys know the comics at all, Cletus Cassidy in the comics, ends up going to this, like, orphanage because he kills his grandmother, like, pushes her down a flight of stairs, and he then burns the orphanage down and kills a guard that was mean to him and a girl that, didn't want to be with him. So I was like, since he was young enough and he was like, I want to play Carnage, and I was like, Carnage is my favorite villain, I want to have some kind of reference to him in here, and there's those two. I was like, you're gonna, I guess in this film, you're gonna be young Cletus Cassidy right after burning down the orphanage. So I kind of have him like hidden. He's like in a basement. Earthcore Studios Ed. Who is this Spider-Man guy? Beating people up and stuff? I don't know. And Avengers and Ant-Man. So there's a cut there because, and there's also a cut in the Miles Morales one because, like I said, I was trying to build off like a cinematic universe here, or a YouTube universe, whatever. And the idea was that Captain America is still frozen. Like he hasn't been thought out yet, and that was going to be a plot point in a later movie. So a lot of times people in their videos would mention Captain America, and I would have to cut it out. But this was right around the time Ant-Man came out, so that's why I was like, hey, throw in a little like reference to Ant-Man.
Why do we need another superhero? We don't need another guy. Who is he? Is he even a good guy? Who knows? Who is?
Hey, Carnage 3 million. I actually talked to him not too long ago. We got into like a political discussion. I know he had like a lot of there's like a lot of issues with him in the sort of fan film community, but he doesn't really mess around with any of that stuff anymore. He's definitely changed for the better. So to any of you guys who kind of still have a problem with him, give it a break, let it go. Miles Morales. We actually shot this like right outside of the school that we were at. You can see how like busted my case was in the bottom, because it was like a canvas case, and you could see like part of it, like part of like the stuffing almost on the case, like showing up on the end, at the bottom of it. I don't know why it freezes at the end like that, but it does.
33rd time's a charm.
Originally, he was going to say 333rd time's a charm, but I was like, that's half of 666, and I don't necessarily want that in here. It's funny, because later on in Ghostface, there's like a little reference to 666, because they're playing the card game, and my brother goes, damn, 2 pairs, oh, 3 6s. But that was sort of like a intentional, sort of like in a Gravity Falls sense. This is Brian Movie Maker, Brian Avenger, C Movie Studios, I believe is his thing. He sent this in. This was a character that he actually was going to do for like a series or something, and he was like, he's gonna kind of debut in Hero of New York. So I was like, all right, cool. But I guess it never really panned out. This is actually how I met Bryce Cherney, and he and I are still friends to this day. We still do a lot of video collabs, and we're still working on a lot of stuff, and a few times actually we're going to meet up, but issues kind of got in the way of that, real life planning issues and such. I don't know if you guys remember, but I reviewed his fan film, Becoming Spider-Man, because I had reviewed Intractable, and I reviewed, after I reviewed that, I was like, I'm up to reviewing any other fan films, and he was like, hey, check mine out, review it, and I was like, sure, I'll review it, but, can you do me a favor, can you send in a clip, and he was like, sure, what do you need me to say, and I kind of gave him an example of what to say, and he was like, sure, I got it, and he did that in one take with the little bit of context I gave him, and, he did pretty good, and most people say that he's probably the best, of these. Everybody who I've kind of asked about it, they've all said, oh yeah, that guy's is the best. I don't even know what this screenshot is right here. Let me see if I can try and recreate that. This is DeMonte Price. He helped write a lot of stuff with me, and you also notice him. He's drawn some stuff for Godzilla Mendoza. He's pretty active on Twitter, so you might recognize him from there. He's worked on other fan films and such. So yeah, DeMonte.
Well, this is how I see it. He's beating up people who can't really, who serve as a serious threat to lives, even the cops.
Yeah, Peter Parker would not have a flat screen TV, but
He has powers of a spider. He can make play.
So this is my friend Isaiah. Funny thing is, he was actually gonna play Tony Stark in this movie, and he was supposed to be like we're gonna do like an Armored Adventures kind of Tony Stark, where he was like younger. Also, that's like a Vigilante version 2 kind of suit, which I like. It's got like the TASM 2 logo in the blue, and he's got the black gloves with the web shooters outside, and he's wearing the jacket, and so it's kind of like a mix of the Vigilante suit and the human spider suit, which I thought was kind of cool. It was like an interesting little hybrid that I made here. But yeah, he was gonna play Tony Stark, who basically like talks to Peter and says like, hey, I saw some of your science stuff, I really enjoyed it. I was gonna be like seen towards the end of the movie, but we ended up cutting it out because it was like, yeah, we're just sort of tacking on Marvel cameos and stuff here. We don't necessarily need that. So he was like, let me play a stereotypical like Puerto Rican thug. So I was like, that's your words, not mine. So he was gracious enough to play this, and I was actually in a short film that he did. So yeah, I mentioned that earlier on in the video. That doesn't make any sense because that was just taken from the TASM one. So Chameleon, he was supposed to have a totally different intro scene. The reason that Chameleon's the first technical villain that I wanted him to fight is because in the comics, that's the first villain that Peter fights. So we did this like little fight scene here. But yeah, initially, yeah, this is bad. We've like gone over this fight scene, Joel and I, and there's a lot of things we would change about this. We had actually reshot this at one point, but we were just like, we'll go with the first one. It's supposed to be more of like a modernized chameleon. He still has the purple, but it's like a hoodie, and he's got just a mask on. I actually kicked him there. Did I actually kick him there? I might have.
Why are you here? I'm here to complete my mission.
Yeah, so I didn't move, and he like under his breath, he's like, move. But I just felt like a knee to Peter's back just wouldn't be enough to bring him down. So no, he's not Harry Osborn here, but if you guys know the chameleon, his powers are that he can transform into anyone, and obviously he's been watching Peter, so he knows Peter's friends with Harry. Also, this was something that they took from Far From Home, the whole like, you know, you're so gullible. See, he turns back into chameleon.
It's over, Mr. Parker.
So initially it was going to be very different, the chameleon scene. Basically, Peter was going to stop a bank robber, so it would have been in place of the stereotypical thug. He would have fought, and there's Batman references over here. There's a Riddler question mark, there's a Batman symbol, there's Vote Dent, Marvel DC crossover confirmed. Also, that when I open the door and say Aunt May, it kind of like, I had it fade out to make it seem like he was walking upstairs, but also because I say, Aunt May, make me a sandwich, and I don't know, I didn't like the whole make me a sandwich thing, because obviously he's not going to be asking Aunt May for a sandwich in that scene, so I was like, we got to kind of cut that out and make it fade away. Here's my brother as Kingpin, who was originally just going to be an after-credit scene villain, because he was the main villain of, the second main villain of Hero of New York 2, but I was like, you know, let's let him actually have a role in this. Let's introduce him in the first film, and then just build up on it on the second film. Censored out my address, of course. That old Hero of New York suit. It doesn't look like that anymore, but I do still have it. I do still have it. So these kids, they were just like there when we shot this, and they were like really interested in it, and we were like, hey, do you guys want to be in this? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So he kind of like mugs his cousin here. And Spider-Man shows up and he's like, oh, hell nah. Runs away. That's a real knife there. And he just disappears.
Ah, Mr. Parker.
Yeah. So basically that's what the scene would have been like. It would have been in place of the typical thug. It would have been in place of this. You would have seen Peter stop, that whole thing. And Chameleon would have came out. And that would have been it. That would have been his only scene. He was going to get defeated. But then I was like, I like the character of the Chameleon. You know, I wanted him in this because of, that, historical aspect of him being, Peter's first villain. But I was like, you know what? We should have him be in the movie a little longer. We should give him a little bit more. So, I've gone back and forth over the years on whether that was a good idea or not. But I don't know. I just grew too fond of the character, and I love that line when he's like, I love the new outfit, because he only knows him as Peter Parker at this point. Now he's Spider-Man, so he's like, hey, you got a new outfit, which was pretty cool. I don't like that he's not wearing his jacket, but it was so hot, it was like 90 degrees outside, and he's like, I'm not wearing that jacket, it's 90 degrees. The costume, if you can't tell, Peter's costume, he's like dancing in the car in the background. There's the car that I was talking about, Pine Chameleon. It's webbing I developed myself. I don't think you want to know. So this suit that I'm wearing is basically a mix of the Raimi suit and like a Todd McFarlane kind of Spider-Man. That's just sort of what I envisioned when I was making it. Because the original mask that I ordered did not look very good. The eyes were like way too close together, and the mask was all like misshapen. So I was like, I can't go for a full Raimi accuracy thing. So I was like, let me just go for a sort of like a McFarlane thing where he's got the big eyes. Even though I kind of prefer the Romita Sr. look where he's got just kind of like the smaller eyes, like the one that he has in the MCU. I actually kind of prefer those to the big eyes. So there's the same guy with the guy that he was just mugging not too long ago. But if you guys don't know, they're the enforcers. That's why the one guy's got the hat to be Fancy Dan. You got Montana and the others there.
The Green Man? I'm the Green Goblin.
I love this scene. So cool. Green Goblin breaks his arm and then he's just maniacally laughing as he blows the car up. Boom! Ha 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 ha. Say your prayers.
It's Spider-Man!
Who are you supposed to be?
I'm the Green Goblin.
I think you got something in your nose right there.
So this is supposed to be like a reference to that poster with Electro and Spider-Man and TASM 2. I hate that like thing. Back in the day when I shot this, I was like, ha, that's so funny. He goes like that, but now I'm just like, it doesn't work. And that bomb should have completely blew him up. The bomb falls out of his satchel and doesn't blow him up. We both punch and he like trips over his own foot. The hat falls off, which that's not even a hat. It's just one of the sleeves that I cut off. The Green Goblin's outfit was compiled via thrift store purchases. Okay, so how I made that Green Goblin costume basically was I went to a thrift store or like a Salvation Army or one of them or like a Goodwill. And I pulled a pair of green sweatpants, a green sweatshirt, and a purple sweatshirt. And those are like purple... I don't know. I don't even know what they are. They're like they were like workout shorts, like women's workout shorts. Like we always refer to them on set as booty shorts because that's kind of what they were. And you know, the shoes were like a pair of women's boots we found at the thrift store. It's a purse from my grandmother's closet that she wasn't using anymore, and the mask was something that was like a demon mask we bought from a Halloween shop, painted green. And the nose, actually, yeah, do I still have the nose? I thought I had it over here somewhere. I might have gotten rid of it, actually. No. Yeah. I think that it's gone. If I ever find it, I'll show it on video, but yeah. The nose was made out of this like sand. It was like this moldable sand stuff that I bought at like I think I bought it back at Toys R Us back when that was still around. And yeah, basically I bought one of those and I just sort of made it into a nose, and we super glued it to the mask. Again, emphasizing my hatred for super glue. And we super glued it to the mask, and we tried painting it, and I tried doing all kinds of things to fix it, and it falls off here, and yeah, that nose was was crazy. Look, he's like holding it and looking for it. This is so bad. No more comments in the chat. So that camera is painted like blue on top and white underneath because in the animated series Peter Parker's camera looks like that, so that's why I painted it to look that way. Doesn't really look that, I guess it doesn't look that great in retrospective, but it's just clearly TASM 1 inspired. He just shattered the damn thing. You will die, Spider-Man. And then another Gwen scene. What was that? Look at my hair. It's like so curly in the back. Because I tried straightening it and I wasn't good at straightening my hair at the time. Obviously I've gotten somewhat better with it now because I have more to work with. So yeah, basically this was just to kind of give them some character to connect with, where she's saying like, you know, my dad died, and he's like, yeah, my uncle died, and you know, she's like, so what do you do? And he goes, I'm all over the city, because, you know, it's another conversation between Peter and Harry. You know, just have them throwing like regular friend stuff, like, hey, I got a bracelet, you know, what do you think of that? Hey man, I've been hanging out with Gwen a little bit. Oh, okay, I see you, kind of thing. So it was just typical like friend conversations.
Wait, I've been. What do you think about this spider guy? You know, I kind of like to think that he gives people hope.
Just Amazing Spider-Man 2 ripoff.
Hope? Yeah, hope. H-O-P-E, hope? Hope. He rescues kittens from trees. He doesn't give people hope. Come on, Harry. He does a lot more than that. Have you noticed that he saves people? He saved that kid getting mugged by that chameleon dude.
Keeping it
It's just the Bugle's been writing so much bad about him. That's true. But I like to see what this guy's deal is. Like, really. I like to sit down, like we are right now, and talk to him. And maybe you will someday.
The light flickered, and I didn't even realize it until I was editing it later. But essentially, that was supposed to reference a scene from a future Hero of New York movie. Probably would have been like 3 or 4. Basically, Peter and Harry would have, or Harry would have met Peter as Spider-Man, and he would have gone to actually talk with him.
You know, we check the time.
That's the case I was talking about. It was like canvas. So there's my brother as Kingpin. I forget what it was that he had, but he was like sick as a dog, and he literally just slept for like 3 days straight because he was like that sick. It was around the time that the whole like Ebola thing was going on, so like I was like raising my eye, like, does he have Ebola? But he didn't. He had something, and yeah, he was sleeping.
Bye, man. Me and Harry are going to go see a movie.
Okay, boys.
Damn, it's so blurry.
Be careful. I don't want that spider guy having to come and rescue you.
Don't worry, Aunt May. We will.
He doesn't even like put his arm in one of the sleeves. There's one of the movies.
There's one of the movies. Going in.
Okay, but get that information. This is your last chance.
I know. That's probably home. Near the skies.
So the White Flash is a reference to the animated series and how he would like hit like the whole silhouette around his body would like flash white, and then he would turn into whoever he was turning into.
Sweet. I'm going in, boss. What an idiot.
I don't know why that was.
What happened? I thought you boys were going.
You can see my brother's arm there. The one from Ghostface. Is he wearing the same jacket that he wore here? I also like how Aunt May kind of has like this New York accent in this particular line. What happened? I thought you boys were going to the movies.
To the movies.
I forgot something upstairs.
Yeah, that's where I almost said downstairs, as I mentioned earlier. There's a duck song thing drawn on that door.
Or was it? Remember, I saw it in here.
The idea is he's looking for that Richard Parker briefcase. The whole Richard Parker thing was with like that ties into the whole chameleon thing was supposed to be a much bigger part of the movie, but we ended up cutting a lot of it out for time. And when we were planning the sequel, we were gonna like insert a whole bunch of that back in and even shoot some new stuff. And Hero of New York 3 would have Hero of New York 2 would have like amped up the whole like Kingpin thing. He would have been way more. He was like way more in that movie. We have footage of him actually in the movie. You know, you actually see him a lot more. He has full blown monologues and stuff. And then by the time like the 3rd or 4th one came around, we were really gonna set up that like Kingpin is gonna be this like really big villain that, you know, is completely like controlling Peter's life and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Richard Parker's briefcase. Sir, I got what we were looking for. Mission over.
I clearly wanted to play Chameleon, and I guess that's why that scene's in there.
So much better than that Blue Man Group thing you took me to last week. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't have anybody else to do it.
That was a line that DeMonte, who you saw earlier, had written for another Spider-Man project that we were doing. He was like, oh, let's have Harry reference that he took Peter to a Blue Man Group thing, and neither of them liked it, and he just needed someone to go with him, so I kind of just threw it in here.
I stalked him. I got the information. Now he won't even let me kill him. Ugh.
Yeah, so basically, he stalked Spider-Man. He got the briefcase, and Kingpin was like, you know, thanks for the briefcase or whatever, but you ain't killing him. Like, you're done. So, and then he obviously betrays him and works with the Green Goblin.
Well, if it isn't Dimitri Smatyakov, I did my research on you.
What do you want from me?
I need your help to defeat the Spider-Man.
What if I say no?
Then I will kill you right here, right now. You dare mock me, boy?
So I'm the Green Goblin in this shot. Here, I'll throw you another Six Side Studios reference. I'm the Green Goblin.
If we work together, we can have power beyond your wildest dreams. And that's only the beginning of my plan.
The mask is like stretched so tight on my face. You can see like how it's pulling the sides. I look like Little Dicky here.
I haven't even called Glenn. Figure she hasn't even called me either. And you know, what worries me is that last time I
So
called
Peter's
her,
got
she
weights.
didn't hear from her.
There's another Liz Allen reference there, even though she's never shown in this. There's weights underneath Peter's sort of couch there, futon. I guess it's sort of like Peter, now that he has strength, the strength of a spider, he's been lifting more. Would have been cool to have a scene with that, though. Some things that I probably would have added if I would have gotten to do the actual reboot. Spider sense. Chameleon.
Goblin chose a good spot.
Chameleon in the Fallout shelter. In the Hero of New York spin-off that I mentioned, he would have actually gone back to that Fallout shelter. So the reason why it's like moving like that is because I was gonna say with great power comes great responsibility, but that was cut out. I have it muted because I don't want to get a copyright claim on this now, even though I'm probably gonna get one anyway because I played some of the other music in here. But here's like a suit up with the kick-ass music. Chameleon. We had his like face covered there, so it kind of added this. So like. And he's got the whole, like, New Jersey State Police thing. It's supposed to be, like, a disguise. And he's got the black thing over his face to just keep him mysterious. Here's Green Goblin. There's Spider-Man putting his web shooters on, even though he doesn't have them in the final fight. He just has them in the next shot. Norman put the mask on. Execute the spider. He puts his mask on. I had issues with both masks, obviously, because this mask, one eye is bigger than the other. This was actually a full, like, fight scene that we ended up trimming down to just this, because I was like, we don't need another Chameleon fight scene. So at one point would have been like 5 Chameleon fight scenes in this that just didn't need to be there. So we have a different actor there playing the Green Goblin, and the whole thing is word for word ripped from The Night When Stacy Died comic. She kind of laughs as she gets thrown off. I like how he like falls in slow motion. So the whole thing there is supposed to like show tension. Probably should have had some music playing over this.
Wait a minute, she's not breathing. No, but I saved you, huh? No, please don't be dead, please. The web must have been too much for your neck to handle.
Before I got to kill anybody, because me and my friend Jessica were being shot again.
He sounds like Bane. Hey, there's like an exact homage to the comics there. And look, she's wearing the purple skirt and the black boots and the black headband and the hair, and she's got the bangs and the coat.
I'm gonna get you.
It's
And
like
when you beg
perfect.
me to end it, I'm gonna remind you of the one thing. You killed the woman I love.
And for that, you're gonna die.
Come and get me, Mr. Parker.
So now, all of a sudden, the bombs blow his mask up. 4 hours. The reason why we had the 4 hours later thing is because I wanted it to explain why he goes from being really big to really small.
Spider-Man will die a horrible death by the hands.
I love like the green lighting of this scene. It's pretty cool. This ends tonight, Goblin.
This ends tonight, Goblin. Right here, right now.
Stop being a coward, you Parker.
Just throws him down.
Do you have any idea what you've done, Goblin? Do you know how important she was to me?
A lot of people look at this and they're like, wow, your acting is so good here. I'm like, but it's not really acting, because I also have like a Justin Bieber haircut here, which is embarrassing, but yeah, it's not really acting for me because I'm somebody who just generally carries a lot of anger. So anytime I get to like be angry in a scene, I just like really let all my anger out, and I tend to scare people. I don't know if you guys remember a while ago I did that series called Hacked that we ended up removing because too many people thought it was real and too many people were calling people up, calling police and shit. So I was like, I'm avoiding this. The series isn't that good for all the trouble that it caused, so I deleted it. But and also it looks like I have like a ponytail sticking out of the hole in the back of the mask. But yeah, when I did that, there's like that one scene where I have the knife and I'm shirtless in the kitchen and I'm like screaming and cursing and I'm like swinging the knife around. That's me just actually letting anger out. Like, so this right here is me just actually letting anger out. And it's a reference to the 90s series because that Spider-Man, that's one of the things I loved about that Spider-Man, was that he was just so angry all the time.
Stop! It's me, Mr. Osborn? Yeah. Why are you hurting me? I feel like a father to you.
I'll move the mask out of my mouth.
You're no father to anyone, especially Harry. You'll never get my empathy.
Why does it cut? Why does it cut? You'll never get my empathy, Goblin. Instead of, you'll never get my empathy, So unlike the movie, my Spider-Man was actually gonna help him, which is more of a reference to the 90s show. Julian J, I got here. Are you gonna save the stream? Yeah. This will be live for a little bit, and then it'll at some point probably be cut up a little bit and put on the Project Hero of New York channel. But yeah, for a while we'll keep this up, and I'll stream a little bit afterwards. So yeah. So this scene isn't really that good. The whole thing, we threw this glider together 5 minutes before shooting this. It's literally the top to like a laundry case, and then that's just a bunch of like poster board that we cut up and just started gluing to the whole thing. And the reason why those sandals are on there is because, you know how the Green Goblin, like in the comics and the 90s series and such, he had those like little slots that he would just kind of stick his feet in so that he could fly around on the glider. I was like, those kind of look like the straps of sandals, so I just put sandals on there. But could have worked a little better on the design. I think the one that we later used in Joker versus Green Goblin was a little better.
No, Mr. Osborn!
I'll watch that one after this too if you guys want. Dead. I like the transition if I would like whoosh. So I guess Peter decided I'm gonna cut my Bieber hair to look respectable at the funeral, or I guess this isn't even the funeral. This is the burial because they're in Norman's grave. And this is also the same grave. This is also the same place that we shot. Rest in peace to Stacy, who we filmed this grave at. This is actually the same cemetery that we shot Voorhees in my slasher movie. I think it's like right about this area that we shot it in, somewhere like around here. So at some point, as Peter's looking at Gwen Stacy's grave, Jason Voorhees is going to visit his mother's grave. So that's kind of cool. Universes connecting. Multiverse, omniverse. Rip off of Raimi again, but you know, so shaky. So the reason that I literally added this in seconds before I exported the movie, simply because I was like, it doesn't make sense. He needs to, we need to show some sort of transition from how he gets his old blown up mask to this new mask instead of just showing him having it. Because this is the mask that he has in Hulk vs. Wolverine. So I shot this on my computer's webcam and like cropped it like that, and it doesn't really look that good. You can see the duct tape on the side of it. The song is Hero by Elizaveta, which is really good. So this right here, the visual effects work was done by Nathaniel Shields of Shields Productions definitely check him out. He's got some really, really, really innovative stuff over on his channel. He's done some original shorts. He's done some like comedy stuff. He's got like a little DC universe that he's got going on where he has a couple Justice League movies and a Supergirl fan film, all really good. Great with visual effects, great with green screen stuff. And I remember talking to him about this, and I sent him the footage, and I was like, hey man, I really need this or whatever. And he was like super busy. I think he might have even been like sick at the time, if I'm remembering correctly. And he was like, he just kind of got this out to me, and I was so thankful that it did, because I think it's probably the best scene of the movie. It's probably the one thing in this movie that holds up really well. I have it muted just because, again, copyright issues. I don't want to do that, but I always love watching this, like watching my Spider-Man web sling through buildings and pull himself forward and diving. Thought it was pretty cool. Dun, 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 dun. So that was Hero of New York, a Spider-Man fan film. The title was also from Earthcore Studios. Originally, I was just going to call it Spider-Man fan film. And he was like, no, we can't do that. And he had sent me a list of titles. And he initially was like, you should call it Spectacular Spider-Man, which is what he ended up calling his. And I was like, I don't really want to call it Spectacular Spider-Man. That wasn't really my favorite show growing up. I preferred the 90s one, shoot me. And he was like, okay, well, he sends me this whole list, and he's like, which of these titles do you think is good? And he sent me like 5 or 6 titles, and I was like, I like Hero of New York, a Spider-Man fan film, the best. So here's the credits. We had quite a big cast for this movie. Very big cast, but they all did really good for what I kind of gave them to work with. So my dad's in here as Richard Parker again. Even though the scenes were cut, I was like, I'm gonna leave that in there because, like I said, just as a honorable mention kind of thing. Green Goblin stand-in. Chameleon stand-in Brandon Bubenheimer, Craig Batista, Nick Fury. Songs: Spider-Man 2002 main theme by Danny Elfman, Spider-Man 2002 original soundtrack costume montage by Danny Elfman, Iron Man original soundtrack Driving with the Top Down, I Just Want to Be a Superhero, Kick-Ass score track 25, Safe House / Ambush. The production team, directed by Brandon Bubenheimer, edited by Brandon Bubenheimer, written by Brandon Bubenheimer and Ed Purcell. Executive producers, Victoria Seasman, my grandmother who played Aunt May, because she did a lot of work on this. Wouldn't have been made without her. Cameraman / woman, Victoria Seasman, Dennis Bubenheimer, Brandon Bubenheimer, Joel Rodriguez, Craig Batista, because he filmed the Uncle Ben with great power scene. And I should have put Nigel in there because he filmed the scene as well. And Isaiah Gomez, I think, filmed the scene as well. So kind of missed a few. I mean, it's something that unfortunately is an issue that I have to try and correct, is sort of writing down what people do to add them in the credits later, because there are times that I forget, and in all my films I usually forget to credit at least one person, and I always feel terrible for it because it's like everybody puts work into this, and I'm trying to jumble everything together. Costumes by Brandon Bubenheimer. Now, this was another thing that Earthcore Studios had told me to do. He was like, so when in the final credits, he goes, when you write in association with Earthcore Studios, he goes, make sure you write that we're not in the same Marvel Cinematic Universe, because he was also building a cinematic universe, and so was I, and we're basically trying to say, like, we don't want to confuse people by having them think that, like, our universes are the same, but that they're both different. Programs used: iMovie for editing / effects, and I use Premiere and After Effects. Scripting, Google Drive, still use that. Special thanks to the cast, their parents for letting them film, Stan Lee, Marvel, our subscribers, JT. Okay, so the cast, obviously, their parents for letting them film, because a lot of them are my friends who are underage and such, and, it was pretty much like asking their parents, hey, can they come film? So special thanks to them. Stan Lee, self-explanatory. Marvel, self-explanatory. Our subscribers, you guys, self-explanatory. JT, the guy who let us film in the wrestling arena. Jesus and God, self-explanatory. Steve Ditko, Zentai for creating the Spider-Man suit, and Ed Purcell for his help. And then Spider-Man will return, giving it that Marvel Cinematic Universe treatment. And then, bam, Spider-Man on the rooftop. Nick Fury. 616 Nick Fury.
Universe now, filled with power-hungry psychos and max vigilantes.
And who are you supposed to be, One-Eye?
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Here to recruit you, Spider-Man. We're going to take down a threat in northern Canada.
A
Threat? Who?
Who? Can't be worse than Chameleon or Osborn.
You can see me like do the director like action in the window. You can actually see me like giving him the signal to go.
His name is Bruce Banner, but the press calls him the Incredible Hulk. He's destroying everything.
Sir, don't talk to me. You failed me.
But sir, I just wanted to...
Stop. I don't need you anymore.
His acting has gotten so much better now that he played Jason and he played Ghostface.
I have other agents.
This is interesting. This is like his first role. This was me as Chameleon because Joel couldn't film.
But soon,
you and the rest of the city
will be calling him Bullseye.
Because Bullseye was a villain in the second one. Story continues in Hulk v. Wolverine. Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll watch this too. Joker versus Green Goblin. So I had the idea because I was doing these like short fights at the time where they were like 2 minutes long or whatever, and I would do just these like miniature fights just to get some content out there and film something in a day or two and get it out there. So for a while I was like just shooting a whole bunch of these. We had done Darth Vader versus Deadpool, Wolverine versus Kylo Ren, Wolverine versus Jason, I think, which is the worst. Kick-Ass versus Kick-Ass, and a few others. They've all been re-uploaded to like a channel that I have that's like just full of deleted videos, and they're the main ones that are on there. But shooting this, I was like, you know, I really want to do Green Goblin versus the Joker because those characters are so similar, and you know, why not? Joker versus Green Goblin, they're two of my favorite characters. Joker obviously being my favorite of the two. So I played the Joker, and I called Joel up, and I was like, you gotta come reprise your role as the Green Goblin, dude. And he was like, oh, definitely. So we kind of tied it into Hero of New York. So Goblin's kind of fixing this box, which is just a cardboard box that we spray painted, and I kept that for a long time. I think it got destroyed at some point. But yeah, I painted the whole inside of it green, painted the outside purple with polka dots on it.
What kind of treachery is this?
For Pretty Little Bat. Care to try it out? For some reason we have Paparazzi by Lady Gaga as the background music, which doesn't fit. It's like a Nightcore remix. It is a song that I do actually like. I remember this Green Goblin vs. Joker short. Remember, I helped write it. Yes, that's true. Superhero Inc. V2.0. I do remember that. Will helps me write this. We were talking about it, and I was like, man, let's do a Joker vs. Green Goblin thing. And yeah, he helped write it. And I remember even when we picked the music, I don't think either of us were really happy that we chose this music. But like I said, I still like that song. I like some Lady Gaga's older, like early 2000s stuff, just because it was weird and wasn't the same like cookie cutter pop music that came out back in the day. So that's why I kind of liked it. Her newer stuff, not really a huge fan of it. But yeah, so that's kind of why we used this song here. I think the song would have worked way better if we did like a Joker and Harley Quinn kind of thing. But yeah, don't think it really works in this scenario. But you know, so there was we didn't put any effects over there. Where it's supposed to be like he gets like attacked by some like Joker laughing gas.
What's your deal, huh? Oh, I'm just trying to have a little fun.
So I kind of like switch between different like Joker voices. Like 1 minute I'm doing like a Heath Ledger impersonation. The next minute I'm trying to do like the next minute I'm doing like a Mark Hamill impression, and the next minute I'm doing like a whatchamacallit, Jack Nicholson. It kind of just like switches. So we tried doing like the Scott Pilgrim versus the World thing, where like as we're fighting, we have like handfuls of baby powder, so it looks like as we're punching each other, like dust particles are flying everywhere. We definitely like overkilled it though. I love that. That's like my favorite thing of this whole thing is that he uses the joy buzzer. So this is actually, because he and I were playing a lot of Mortal Kombat X when we did this, that's a move that Triborg would do, is he would like step on your foot, like pull you back, and then just, like he would just keep punching you in the face. So that's why we did that. And then I like stumble over and I find a broken glass bottle. I bust it. Because see, there was like 4 of those. That wasn't in the script, but there was like 4 of those empty beer bottles like off to the side. So clearly somebody was up there drinking and left the bottles there, and I was like, well, these are too good not to use them. So I like break it. The first one I broke and it just completely shattered, and I was like, damn it. And the other one I broke and it just kind of like it did break, but the most of it that broke off was like the part that I would need to stab him with. So I was like, ah. And there's like a blooper where I get really mad. I'm like, it didn't even break the right freaking way, and I like throw the glass. So that was the last one we had, and I smashed it, and it didn't even really break. It just kind of chipped the end, and I didn't want to hit it again because then it was our last one. And he's laughing because obviously it's the Green Goblin.
What? Can't you take a joke? I'll rip you in half, you foolish clown.
You know, the day we shot this is actually the day that I decided to grow my hair out, because it was pretty long then. It was like, you know, down to like here or so, my hair, and then like down to here. It was kind of like emo hair at the time, and I remember like that day, my parents were like, yeah, you're gonna get a haircut. And I'm like, oh, I am? Okay. And yeah, I got it cut, and I really didn't like the way it was cut, because it was like really long in the back and like short on the sides, and like the top was like really uneven, and I didn't like the way it was cut. It had all these layers in it, and I was just looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, I don't really like how my hair looks when it's like all cut up. So I was like, so from this day forth, my hair is growing, and I've stuck to that, as you can see. I like that shot of him as the Joker, speaking of myself in third person.
Oh, how about the truth? How about I
break your neck? It looks like he like shit himself because he has a brown stain on him. Ooh, missed. But then I kicked him. And there he is with the powder again. Lunges himself forward. Jump kick in the air. Yeah, no, that's just because it was really muddy that day. Picks that up again. And I literally stab him with it again. Not finished with you yet. And I just keep punching him in the face. Yeah, this fight would definitely be very different if I had done it today. So that was supposed to be sort of like a reference to Mortal Kombat. To any of you guys who play that, you know, like when it goes finish him, they're usually like staggering around, like trying to stay up before you know, perform your fatality. And this is also a reference to Mortal Kombat versus DC, with like Joker's fatality. To a gunfight. Capgun. The Joker broke the fourth wall there, because if you don't know, Fresh Powd, yes, I remember that, is Mohawk reference. If you guys don't know, Joker in the comics can actually break the fourth wall. Like, he actually is aware of the fact that he's a comic book character. The Imaginary Axis actually has a really good video on this if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, the Joker is fully aware of the fact that he's a comic book character. He interacts with his own speech bubbles in the comics. He knows when he's like in a TV show and stuff. He has referenced non-canon crossovers in actually canon books. He's directly talked to the artist to stop drawing Batman. There's a comic where he's in Arkham and he's talking about how he has imaginary like fans, and they're like imaginary friends, who are you talking to? And he was like, well, some people have imaginary friends, I have imaginary fans. And he goes, so then by your own definition, they're imaginary. So they're figments of your imagination. And he goes, no, we're figments of their imagination. And he's like, I mean, I can't be crazy, right? Right! And he like looks at the camera. It's kind of cool. So yeah, that's like a reference to Joker breaking the fourth wall. Much better version of the glider stab, but still not that great. Because you can actually see, like, he's just like holding it over his head and running towards me, and you can kind of see him a little bit there. And yeah, it hits the Joker and kills him. And then we made that fake blood using some sort of like clear syrup and mixed some red food coloring in there, and it got like real chunky in my mouth and stuff, and then you just spit it out. You can see it like hanging from my mouth and stuff, and it's like all over my teeth. So that's a reference to, I forget which animated movie is it. Is it Batman Beyond Return of the Joker? I think so. Where Joker gets shot with the flag gun, and it goes right through his chest, and he goes, "That's not funny. That's not," and just dies. So that was a reference to that, and to the Goblin getting impaled by the glider. And then there's a reference to Hero of New York, because he goes up to the Joker and goes, "This is how I died." Ah, ha, ha.
This is how I died.
So I almost like to think that like they're fighting in hell or something. So yeah, that was Hero of New York. I guess I could show you guys this. The fan film multiverse. This was an old channel that I don't
feel secure.
Really do much on.
It feels like somebody is watching me.
This is Wayne, who plays Spider-Man. He plays 616 Spider-Man in what's his name? Alex's movies. Spider-Sense reference to the 90s show. And basically we wanted to sort of resurrect that thing that I used to do with the 1-minute fights, and we decided to do one with the Joker and Spider-Man, who are my two favorite characters. Could have been much better than it was, but once again, everything's a learning curve. So yeah, there's like some references, like, you know, Avengers Mansion, we say that this is shot in. There's obviously a reference to Civil War.
Well, but doesn't Pennywise the Clown.
Pennywise reference.
Screw off, Superboy.
I'm afraid I can't do
Superboy reference. Wipes me to the face.
You pain in the ass. Hey man, it's a PG show. Watch your language.
You know what? I think it's time to get serious. Apollo's not part of my
This definitely could have been better. We kind of rushed it. We were kind of tired.
You wanna get serious?
This also, him taking the mask off was supposed to like, and the whole thing in the beginning about the dream and stuff, the video was supposed to be a lot longer, and you would have found out that like the Joker was actually like haunting his dreams in a way. And it was gonna be like, it was supposed to be like a side effect of like a Marvel DC crossover that kind of would have spanned it over a couple more films, but you know, we never really got to it.
Name's Peter.
Let's dance.
Let's dance. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Also, the fact that he takes his mask off is kind of a reference to the MCU, since that Spider-Man takes his mask off like every 5 seconds. And so it's one of the things that pisses me off, because like that's always been a big part of Spider-Man's character, is like, you know, he doesn't take his mask off, he doesn't reveal that secret identity unless he has to. And that version of Spider-Man in the MCU, like every chance he gets, he takes his mask off, and everybody that he meets, he's like, "Hi, I'm Peter Parker. Hi, I'm Peter Parker. Hi, I'm Peter Parker. Hi, I'm Peter Parker." I'm like, oh my god. I don't know. Hashtag not my Spider-Man.
Not quite. But I made a deal with him before.
More comic book references, because I'm such a nerd who reads comic books all day. I really do, though. Yeah, the Joker could trip Spider-Man. Royalty-free action music. I really don't think physically the Joker could give Spider-Man this hard of a time. You know, maybe like using gadgets or something, but overall, he's not giving Peter this hard of a time. Ooh. You can see like my hairspray was starting to like come out. See, that was a problem that I would have anytime I filmed with the Joker, is that the hairspray would always like start to flake out, and then towards the end it was basically like only the top was green, and then the rest of it was like my natural brown color. I kind of look like Ismahawk's Heath Ledger Joker here. Spits on me, punches me. I'm not going to stay on too long after this, so if you guys have any questions that you guys want answers to, definitely start dropping them in the chat so that I can answer them before we all have to go back to our boring lives. Yeah, he's out. Grabs his knife. Ooh. Why didn't your spider senses kick in, Peter?
This is why I use a knife.
See, there we had to, like, we resprayed the hair green. I look like Beetlejuice there. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
I know you better than you'll ever know yourself.
So you can actually see like a web on him. Knocked him out. Limps over. Because he obviously is like cut open. He's got a web on him. Which is just like a hot glue web we made.
Get too old for this, man.
Into the Spider-Verse Spider-Man? We had also shot a Spider-Man versus Kick-Ass. One of those fights that just never came out. Yeah, so that, some comments on it. There's Wayne, if you want to check him out. What did this guy say? That Joker sucked. He was serious most of the time. Yeah, agreed. Cheek Clapper 420. Obviously not a troll. Love that Pennywise joke. Hey, Superhero Inc. There's your comment. Is Joker going to give Spider-Man a prostate exam with those gloves? Maybe. Yeah, this channel never really took off. I had done some other fights on there. We did a Daredevil versus Batman one as well. That, again, I wasn't a huge fan of. I played a lot of characters in it. This was green screened. This isn't too bad. You got the Solomon Grundy wanted poster there.
I ain't saying nothing. Where is he? I don't know. Where is he? I don't know. Where is he? He's in Hell's Kitchen. I swear he's in Hell's Kitchen.
Daredevil in the classic yellow suit. The best Daredevil suit.
So you're the Batman?
Yeah, what's it to you?
This is my city. Leave now.
I'm afraid I can't do that till justice is served.
I guess I have to welcome you to my city, the old-fashioned way.
Batman typical just disarms you. It's not a trash bag as his cape. I know it looks like one. It's just a really, really poor choice of material.
You don't know the first thing about justice.
Because Daredevil's a lawyer. Batman should have been able to dodge that. Ooh, square up, yo. Charge up. Shot from like a security camera perspective. And there's the Joker smoking a cigar, I guess. New 52 Joker is smoking like a cigar, I guess. And he puts it out. The smoke effect is really bad. And he puts it out.
It's a shame that your father raised such a disappointment.
Damn, he did that much damage?
Judge, jury, and executioner. What? Haven't had enough?
I'm gonna save the stream also. What is some advice? I'll answer that in a second.
Where's the Kingpin? Where's Joker?
What? I think you officially got crazy now.
As if Batman wasn't already crazy. Knocks out the lights. Smoke pellet. That wasn't too bad, actually, of an effect. Daredevil's trying to, like, use sound. You can see my ponytail sticking through the mask. This is a fun trip down memory lane. Detective mode. Hostile. Nervious spelled wrong. Beat per minute 120. Sneaks up on him, but Daredevil's able to sense the noise. We really overpowered Daredevil on this, wow. And really underpowered Batman. We really nerfed Batman in this. Marvel Nemesis reference. Why is Daredevil in this like so focused on having a cool pose than on actually like fighting? Oh damn, Batman's neck broke. And he's just beating his dead body. Wow, that's dark. That is really dark.
Imagine what I could have done if I could see.
Back when my hair was much, much shorter than it is now. Ooh, he's still alive. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Okay, I think that's enough of that. Let me answer this question here. Are you gonna save the stream? Yes, the stream will be available on this channel for a little bit, and then eventually I will kind of cut it up a little bit, cut out some of the parts that, you know, where I'm like fixing the technical issues and such, and re-edit it and put it on this channel that you can see right here, Project Hero of New York. There should be a link in the description of this stream and of most of my videos to check this channel out if you aren't already subscribed to it. I definitely recommend that you do so because I want to put a lot of Hero of New York related content on here, and I'll talk about a whole bunch of stuff, dive in real deep to it and stuff, and that will eventually be uploaded onto here. So if the stream is no longer on here, it is on here. Also, what is some advice you can give for making a Spider-Man fan film? Okay. Advice for making a Spider-Man fan film. Well, I made a couple. You guys haven't seen all of them. You guys have only seen one that I've directly made. I made a couple other ones that I never really finished or put out there. And I also did some films with Alex, aka Mental Motion Pictures, who actually I'm gonna try and find his channel really quick. Mental Motion Pictures. Yeah, right here. So he's actually got some stuff on his channel that you guys might like. But yeah, he had done the Amazing Spider-Man fan film, The Ultimate Spider-Boy, and he and I kind of collabed to do Ultimate Spider-Man. I kind of helped out a little bit on that film with like all the scenes that I was in and that I helped him film. So I done a little bit of work on that. So that's another fan film that I guess I kind of had my hand on, as well as these 3 episodes of the Symbiote Saga. I had helped out a little bit with that because I played Venom or Eddie Brock in that, and I kind of would talk to him over Skype, and he and I would sort of talk about different ideas for it and such. But in terms of advice for making specifically a Spider-Man fan film, I would say be realistic about what you want to do. Sort of play to your strengths and know your limitations. If you know that you don't have the budget, the cast, the crew, the resources to do like a giant 2-hour-long movie that tells the origin, that tells the death of Gwen Stacy, that tells this, if you know that you don't have the crew to realistically pull that off, if you realize that you don't have the resources to pull that off realistically, don't do that idea. Put that idea on the back burner and maybe save up to it, but think realistically of what you can do. Think of the resources you have and how that could work in. Thinking like, okay, well I have 2 guys that are willing to be in this film. This guy I think could play a really good Green Goblin, and this guy I think could play a really good Prowler or something like that. That's just an example. And plan to that. Plan to their strengths. Sort of think about the tone of your universe that you're gonna do. If you're gonna do something more campy and comic booky, then play to that. Do like I did with the Daredevil costume, or with the Hero of New York costumes, where they look like the comics, but on film they don't look very realistic. They look very comic booky, kind of like Adam West Batman. If you're gonna go for a tone more similar to that, then you can do something like that. Or if you want to do something more gritty and serious, then you want to adjust your costumes accordingly. Again, it also kind of ties into your budget a little bit too. If you have money for a full-blown Green Goblin armor, go for it. And if you don't, plan for something a little more simple than that. Do a villain that won't cost as much. Use your resources to your fullest extent. Work on your story. That's probably the best advice I can give, is really get a strong story. Really make it your own too. Like, you ultimately, when making this film, you have to really have a reason in your film why you're making it. There's a reason why you're making this film as opposed to anybody else who could make this film. Make it your own. Make it personal. Make it, if you ever watched a Tim Burton movie, it's a Tim Burton movie. You watch a James Gunn movie, it's a James Gunn movie. Make people look at this movie and say, and make them immediately think, okay, this is definitely you. Like, really put your own voice in it, put your own spin on it. Surprise the audience. Watch different videos about story structure. There's a YouTuber called D for Darius who's all about like making low budget films. Watch some of those videos. Watch some Film Riot videos where they do different stuff. Do different tests for things. Go out, shoot some sort of crappy footage that you're not gonna upload or put into the movie, and just do some tests, perfect the things that you feel are your weak suits, and try and just make the best movie that you can with the budget that you have. Tell a story that hasn't been done 1,000 times. That's something that I kind of wish I would have done. Really do something new, really do something fresh, and that's really the best advice I can give. Keep the characters in mind when you make the story. Would Peter Parker realistically do this? Would Green Goblin realistically say this? You know what I mean? Really plan ahead for that. Thoughts on movies like John Wick? I haven't seen any of the John Wick movies, surprisingly. I've kind of talked with Mental Motion Pictures about doing a John Wick movie where we would kind of collab and make a John Wick movie for his channel, but we haven't really gotten too far on conversation with it. I believe he bought me some of the John Wick movies that he's sending me up, because we kind of like buy each other movies, like a sort of like a Blockbuster kind of thing. We like send each other movies that we haven't seen. I haven't seen the John Wick movies. I'd like to. The only real thing, the only time I've really talked about the John Wick movies has been in comparison to this new Joker movie that came out. Which, do I have it? Yeah, it's right here. Bam. Really good movie in my opinion. Probably best comic movie of the year. But you know, because a lot of the like press surrounding that movie was like, this is a movie that's going to inspire violence. This is a movie, you know, that is just brutal and chaotic and just totally evil, and you know, it's just going to attract the worst kinds of people to it, and da 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 da. And it's so violent, and it's so this and this and that. Yet, you know, John Wick is essentially a one-man genocide. He's a walking army basically, and you know, he's killing people left and right. So that's really the only time I've really talked about the John Wick movies, is in comparison to that, and also because like you watch the John Wick movies, I don't really get taken out of, like, you get taken out of the action with it. You know, you don't really suspend your disbelief because it's not really. Yeah, that's the best way to say this. Like, you don't really see through. You do actually. You see through the character, and you don't really see John Wick. You basically you see Keanu Reeves. You know, when you watch the Joker, you don't really see Joaquin Phoenix for more than a couple minutes. You see this Arthur Fleck character. You see the Joker, and then when it comes to like some of the newer Marvel movies, like it's gotten to the point where you don't even see the character anymore. You see the actor. Like, you don't really see Bruce Banner anymore. It's just Mark Ruffalo, you know, especially now that he just like runs around in the Hulkbuster suit and the Professor Hulk thing. He's basically just Mark Ruffalo. He doesn't even act like Bruce Banner anymore. Robert Downey Jr., they started writing Iron Man based more on Robert Downey Jr. than the other way around. Chris Evans started acting, you know, way more like Chris Evans than like Captain America. Scarlett Johansson started to turn Black Widow into more of a Scarlett Johansson and less of Natasha Romanoff. I mean, not everyone's gonna agree with me on that, but that's just sort of my take on that. But since we are nearing the end of the stream, and if you guys have any other questions, now is the time. But I'm just gonna kind of, since you guys have sat through this whole thing, I'm gonna talk about the new Spider-Man movie that I'm working on. This is gonna be a really interesting movie. Got the Michael Myers mask over here. So this new Spider-Man movie that I'm working on, it's gonna be very, very different than any Spider-Man fan film you've ever seen. Hank the Tank and I have been working endlessly on this movie. We've both tried doing different Spider-Man fan films before to like redeem ourselves, and none of them panned out. So he and I started talking, and we've been working tirelessly on a draft, trying to iron out every plot hole, trying to strengthen the story to the best that we can, trying to get rid of plot conveniences, trying to get rid of characters that don't serve the story, trying to make the story as strong as possible. And so far, it's so good. It pays homage and is a love letter to every single piece of Spider-Man media since the 90s, and even before then. We touch on the 90s, we touch on the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, we touch on Spectacular, we touch on all the cartoons, we touch on all the video games, we touch on all the movies, you know, just references galore. If you thought Hero of New York had a lot of references, you're not ready for this one. It's probably not coming out for a while, you know, because it's a really, really big project. We have so many people who are a part of it, so many other fan filmers, so many other YouTubers. It's just going to be this huge, ginormous project. I don't want to get like too into specifics and details, but just know it's going to be much, much different than anything else that you've seen before. And I think you guys are really, really going to like it. It's going to be darker. It's not really going to be made for kids. So I know that's going to disappoint, like, you know, some of the younger members of the audience, but, you know, sorry. You know, YouTube has really been cracking down on this is your content for kids or is it not for kids? So ultimately, I lean more towards my content not really being for kids. But ultimately, it's the internet, so it's very easy to say that you're older than you are and watch my films. It's not like there's anything pornographic or really explicit in them. Just fairly violent, fairly dark, foul language, stuff like that. Yeah, I think you guys are really gonna like it. Like I said, it's gonna be darker. If you guys are expecting like the tone from like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're gonna be disappointed, because we're not really doing that. We're not really fans of that. Expect the tone of like older Marvel, pre-Disney Marvel, because that's kind of what we're gonna be touching on. There's going to be references to all these other versions, all these other video games, movies, and such, but we're not directly connecting them to those movies, and I can't really elaborate on that without spoiling, so I don't really want to do that. But essentially, we've created the very first fan film multiverse. I know other people have tried to do some, and they never really panned out, but we have one, and it's probably the biggest, and I don't really want to elaborate too much more on that, because we are starting to tread into spoiler territory, so I don't really want to talk much more about it, but ultimately, I think you guys are going to love this film. I've just loved writing it, and we're still in the very, very, very early stages of pre-production, but I think you guys are gonna love it. I'm blown away from the little bit that we have so far. I have basically, I was sort of drawing these sketches to blueprint and map out certain aspects of the movie, and I don't really think you guys are going to be able to sort of decipher these. They're like the notes of a madman. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for joining the stream. I had a blast. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you guys for watching this movie with me and going down memory lane. Zack Snyder watched BVS recently. James Gunn watched both Guardians movies. The Russo brothers just watched Infinity War and Endgame. I figured, especially given the time, I had to watch Hero of New York with you guys. I thank you guys for the support over the years in the slasher movies. To those of you guys who are mainly subscribed for Spider-Man and Marvel content, thank you for being patient and allowing me to do other content, because we are going to get back into Marvel stuff. We are going to get back into superhero stuff. We're not getting rid of the slasher stuff. We're definitely going to keep doing slasher. We're definitely going to keep doing a whole bunch of we definitely want to do a whole bunch more stuff. We want to do more slasher. We want to do Marvel. We want to do some DC. We want to do all kinds of stuff. And I think you guys are really gonna like some of the stuff that we have planned. But ultimately, because these ideas are just, to me, they're just so good, I don't want to rush them out, and I don't want to just half-ass release them. I really want them to be good. I really want them to be stuff that I can be proud of. I've started to become very critical of my own work, and I want to make sure it's the best that it can be before I release it to you guys. I think you guys deserve that. Do you think this one's your last outing? It really depends on how it goes making the movie. If it's just really fun and that lets all the hard work, if that outweighs all the hard work, then yeah, we have plans for a potential sequel to this movie, and we have plans to sort of continue things. But if this turns out to just be way too hard, and we release it, but it just kills all of us to release it, then the chances of a sequel kind of die down, because the sequel idea that we have is bigger, and it's hard to think that you can get much bigger than what we have now. But yeah, once you guys start to see some trailers and announcements and stuff, you'll understand a little more. But when that time comes, it'll come. In the meantime, we're we're planning on doing some more slasher stuff. I have, as you can see, we have my boy Mike Myers here. Mask stuff with bags to help keep its shape. Like me, Michael's got that ponytail because he's got some extra hair here. Stuff that back in. So he's probably the next thing you're gonna see from the channel. I'm definitely gonna do some more slasher stuff in the near future, and we're gonna kind of wrap up what we have going on with the slasher stuff. We're gonna extend it a little bit and then wrap it up, tell like a little story there in the slasher series, and then we might come back to it, we might not, and then from there we're gonna start working on some Marvel and some DC stuff again, and I think you guys are just really gonna like it. I guess that's about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I'm gonna leave this stream up for a couple days, probably maybe a couple weeks or so, until I can get a nice edited version together for the Project Hero of New York channel, which there it is again. Go ahead and subscribe. Link should be in the description below. Already we got 1 new subscriber. Look at that. You guys are the best. So yeah, I'll see you guys shortly. Stay safe during this coronavirus pandemic. Help slow down the pandemic. Stay home. Wash your hands. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. Try and do something productive during this time. You guys are working on stuff. Do some research. Read some comic books. Read some books. Watch some movies. Watch a whole bunch of YouTube tutorials to learn things that you want to learn that are going to help you out. Use the time wisely. Be productive during this time, and stay safe. That's the most important thing of all. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care. Take care. It's not ending. What do I say? It's not ending. The stream, it's gonna go on forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever. Ah!